things that do not profit them. They can invest that time in building things that are sustainable and can also earn them a living. We also have a campaign that we started not quite long, which is DigiTransform, which is a digital sensitization program that is aimed at teaching secondary school students about the advances of technology and how they can leverage on technology even as they will be proceeding with the next. And tonight, basically, so we don't waste our time, we would be considering the topic design journey and success stories, which is under our monthly webinar, Unlock Your Creative Potential. And tonight we have in our midst a very um, prominent figure in the design industry, Miss Peace Ogunnaike, a creative designer at Nike Designs, and we also have the host on the call, who is Mr. Oyewole Anoluwa, who is the founder and the director at Bezalel. So, not to waste our time too much, I'd just like to call on our host for today for whatever he has for us. Then we go into um the design story and the success story, the design journey and success stories, where we would have the speaker, person of Miss Peace Ogunnaike. So, Mr. Anolu Oyewole, please, you can have you, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you for joining us again this evening. We are glad to have you with us at Bezalel Design Academy. And it's always a pleasure to contribute our quota to seeing a better Nigeria happen. Everybody has a responsibility to play about making our nation better, and we must see it as important as it is. So again, I would like to lend my voice with that of our program manager to welcome our very own speaker today. Uh, our speaker today is a friend of the house. He has been with us and she loves everything we do. And we hope beyond hosting her today, we would get more of her as time goes on. So please join me to welcome Miss Peace Ogunnaike, the creative designer at Nike Designs. So it is Nike Designs. All right. So to start our conversation, Miss Peace, please can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much. I
All
can.
right. So to start our conversation tonight, I would just want to ask a quick question. How did the journey started? Yes, I know you do a couple of things, but really, how did the design journey, how did it start?
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, I must appreciate everyone for honoring me to be amongst us today. It is of great honor and privilege to be amongst you guys, and I'm happy that we're a family, you know. So yes, let me just jump straight into the question. How did the journey start? Hmm, that's a very good question. I've never really sat down to think of how I started design. But one thing I can always go back to is while I would say when I was in secondary school, yeah, I was in science class, yes, but I sort of found myself in things that are not scientific but more of technical. I loved drawings, you know, I loved drawings. Then I loved some sort of, I don't know if this is a graphic that I'll call it, but some sort of something that looks pleasant to the eyes. I didn't know what to call it then, but I knew it was something. So, you know, along the line, I got into Bells University and I started my architecture journey, which is in the architectural design phase, right? I started and then I grew passion over time with the design. Then to talk about the graphic design, which I sort of it's so dear to me. That part of myself is very, very dear to me, and I intend to hold it very tight. You know, is I saw what communicating what you like, take for instance, you want to communicate something to people. It is very important that people get your message without speaking, without importantly speaking. So if I see a flyer and they just send something to me, I should be able to tell what this flyer is about. So I sort of understood the pattern of graphic design, of communicating, right? And so I just grew passion for it. I'm like, I like to do something that people would see and they would be like, oh, I love this, I love this. And then that was how I just started. It wasn't something that has always been there, but I knew that there was a foundation from having to see things that are aesthetically pleasing, and then communication, most importantly. When I saw all of these things, I was like, this is my calling. And that is the same with architectural design. I already mentioned that I loved drawing. I loved to see things that are complicated being solved to a very simple, puzzle. And so, yeah, that was how the journey started. And I'm still here going strong. So I hope that answers the question.
It does. Well, so I decided to jump the gun to drive home a particular point which you mentioned while you were responding, to
Okay.
simplify a very complex thing. Yeah, I mean, there are different mediums to communicate. It's not only by us getting to talk, getting to do
Yeah.
sign language,
Mm.
amidst others. Yeah. So this is us putting out to everybody that will be getting to see this video or that will be joining us, that you have a uniqueness,
Mm.
and you may start off from not really paying attention to things happening around you. But as journey progress, you must realize, you must hold that thing very dear. You must realize, you must identify your uniqueness and grow it. So our discussion tonight would further enhance how you could grow what started off out of probably an hobby, probably parental factor, probably you just found yourself doing something interesting. So our guest speaker tonight or this evening will be sharing with us how she had scaled over time from what didn't happen out of too much carefulness, or to say, okay, I'm going out, I'm going to a design school, I want to learn and all like that. All right. So I'll be putting off my mic right now for you to put on yours, and so we can all hear you. Thank you again for joining us this evening.
So what do you want me to speak about again? I should reiterate on what I mentioned before.
All right, so you can just go ahead and share your
Okay.
journey, how you've been able to scale from, okay, you didn't really pay attention, it didn't happen out of, okay, I'm going to a
Mm.
design school.
Okay. Okay.
So how
Mm.
you scaled it from that crude start to where you're at now.
Mm. Okay. So I'll try and answer the question in the best way that I understand. And uh, so just like I mentioned before, I first noticed I wouldn't say interest or passion. I don't even think I knew what I was thinking of or what I liked when I was in secondary school, to be honest. But I just knew that there was something. In fact, I didn't start graphic design until like my final year. That was like 2 years after I was in university. So I was actively doing architectural design. And just for a backstory, architectural design, basically, drawing buildings and then bringing it to life, basically, like, and going through all the construction process and everything like that. So while I started, how I started my graphic design, it's a funny story actually. So I said I already had a background of oh, I like something, and I was like, if this could be communicated better, I would like it. So I knew that in graphics design, it was a skill to have, to be able to communicate your intention, whatever you want to do. It is a skill that you must have to be able to communicate with whatever you put out. You don't even have to say anything, but they should be able to tell, which is also likely with brand. When you're branding in graphic design, people should be able to like, oh, I know this, I know for integrity, I know this person. So all of these things, when I started discovering that, oh, I had a passion for graphic design, I was not even sure what it was, but I took my time. I went to check about what graphic design is. I saw that it spans through identity, brand, long-term branding, and so many things. Communicating, marketing. It spans through a lot of sphere in the creative world, right? So I started taking it over myself. I started observing. trends. I started observing what my superior were doing. I noticed. I think one of the persons that I was always looking at his work was Anu. Yeah, I didn't tell you, but I was always paying attention to what he is doing. So I started picking up from my superior. I was going to. Sometimes I could go on YouTube, check on how people try to communicate things with not just flyers, with anything that is in the creative world, basically. So I started taking it upon myself. I first started with Canva. I first started with Canva. I started doing some little things, and it's not like I was getting jobs immediately when I started my graphic design journey. It was more of just try out things because clients will not come immediately. That's one thing for sure. In this creative world, clients will not come immediately, especially when you are just starting. They wouldn't come because they have to see what you have done, before they can trust you with their money, right? So I had to first of all take it up by myself, be learning the skill, just putting out designs, simple designs, dummy designs that don't belong to anybody. I'll just design it and put it out. I know eventually when people started paying attention to what I was saying, oh, I like this your work. Oh, can you do this for me? Then I was like, oh, it is now serious. It is getting, people are seeing it. So there was a level of consistency and persistency that I had to put because if I had just stopped when people, maybe clients did not come in like 3 months and I said, oh, I'm not doing it again, it's not for me. So design takes time. Having to understand how design works takes time. So the moment you get a hang of it, or the moment I got a hang of it, I started getting serious with it. So I started juggling my architectural design with my graphic design. And somehow they even work hand in hand in some context here. So when I saw that clients started coming in, they were interested in what I was doing. Then I started taking it upon myself to go through courses if I had to, speak to my superior. I've always disturbed Anu. I must say it, yeah. I'm always disturbing Anu that help me. What do you think about this? So one thing I noticed is that this creative world or field brings some sort of teamwork. It makes you communicate or collaborate with people. It makes you communicate with people. You can't do it by yourself. That is one thing. Especially when you're starting at first, you can't do it by yourself. So I had people around me to put me through, and then when I saw that the light was the light and when I was getting to the light at the end of the tunnel, I started expanding, and I started joining logos to flyers, from flyers to branding packages, and yeah, that was how the journey started. And one thing I must mention is that learning never ends. Till today, I still learn from people that I look up to, even the ones that started before me or after me. I should look up to them because they might understand something. Just like I mentioned, the creative world, the design world is very versatile. It's very diverse rather. So you have to pick from something. You have to learn from somebody. You have to learn from here and bring it up together to complete the puzzle. And then yeah, I think I've been doing fine. Yeah. In the design world so far, in the design journey, I think I've been doing quite fine. But one thing I must mention is consistency and then commitment. Commitment is very important because you will be discouraged. The clients can come and say, oh, I don't like this your design, or I've wasted my money. They will come at you, but you know why you are there. You have a vision for it already. There are times that clients did not pay because they didn't like what I did. They didn't pay the full amount, and you have to accept it because you cannot try and come at the clients for not being satisfied with what you're doing, even if it is good. They say customers are always right, and it is also applicable in design sometimes. So all of these things happen, and they can discourage you. But trust me, it is just part of the process. It is just part of the journey. So yeah, that's what I can say. I hope that is able to.
Yeah, you've said so much. Thank you. So we'll get back to the last part where you concluded about client notes. Anyway, sometimes the design is good, but then they play rough. So hopefully we will still have time to touch on that. But just to reinforce what you've mentioned, so after starting in a very unique way, which I gave the term crude, you didn't start out of the consciousness of, okay, so now I want to go out to learn graphic design. All right. So you went further to research what exactly is graphic design? What does it entail? Then you mentioned something I find very fantastic. What are the niches? What are the career opportunities in graphic design? Then you realize, okay, there's branding, Yes, that's visual identity design. There's publication design and editorial design. There's marketing and different niche really in graphic design. And then you chose your path and went on like that. So to everybody listening and to those that will still listen later, irrespective of how you start, you must take a further step to research and really get to know so much about the the career. If it is graphic design, if it is a discipline in school, you must go ahead, you must take that responsibility. I mean, this is about you. So you are doing it for yourself, not for any other person. It's important that you go further to research. And then you mentioned that you went further after the research. You started small, started where you are with what you have. That's by saying you started with Canva and see you today. My God, the top. You get, and then you leverage network, people around you who are doing what you are now into. You reached out to them. So, dear people listening, reach out to those that are doing what you are about doing so that they could rub off on you. So the third point you mentioned was that you were practicing and then you were putting the practice out. So you were showing your work. But I'm not going to talk about showing your work yet. Let's talk about the emotional part. How did you feel? All the times when you were practicing, I mean, you were giving yourself the task, you were practicing doing designs for yourself. I mean, it was not for any client, nobody was going to pay for it, and you were certain. In a tush way, we'll call it when you were building your portfolio. So, how did you feel? How was the silent moment of your journey?
Okay, thank you very much for that question. And I really love this because that is one thing that I paid attention to. When I first started, for months, I was still even in school, right? Which made it even harder because I didn't have a social media presence. And I hope that myself and Anu will talk about social media presence. So I was not putting out my work. I was just doing it normally, then sharing it on my WhatsApp status. And I felt very bad that I was on. In fact, I can tell you there were months that I didn't touch Canva. I didn't do anything graphic design. In fact, some people are like, oh, I didn't know that you're doing graphic design. Oh, since when? I'll tell them, oh, since like several months ago. And they're like, oh, I don't see your work. That is because there are times that I'm like, oh, I'm not doing this thing again. See the effort that I put into this thing now. But the thing is, I had to. It wasn't a good feeling basically, and it's almost like it's going to. What you would feel is like, nah, this is not for you. This is not for you. Trust me. Go and do something else or focus on another thing. If you actually listen to those voices, you won't be able to do anything because it's not always going to be rosy at the beginning. And one thing that I think I had my superior, I had to ask them that how do I put out myself? So I think there are times I've talked to and I believe he has made it clear when I first started. He said, so the thing is some things take time. And just like I mentioned before, he tried to help me understand why I'm not getting gigs yet. These things take time. You can't start graphic design this week and you hope that clients will start rushing you in the next month. So you have to make me see, or I've spoken to people that had to make me see that what you're experiencing is normal. It is a phase. There is a time where you feel like, oh, more, there is a lot of work. I cannot do it anymore. You start discarding or rejecting projects. That is, but for this phase, it's almost very tempting to just give up and leave it. And just like I mentioned before, I left it at a point. I was not doing it, but I got back to it because I had people around me that could tell me that no, this is why it is like that. It doesn't have anything to do with you particularly. It's just a phase. It's just a process. So yeah, the feeling wasn't good, but we continued with the help of people.
But then, why didn't you give up since the feeling was not good?
So the thing is, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that there was a gap I wanted to bridge in the design world. I won't say, oh, I knew that I was called for it, no, but I had passion for it. So even when things didn't go well, I was just like, you know what, I'm going to continue. So I decided to be persistent, to remain in it, to remain. And just like I mentioned before, my friends, my colleagues, or my senior colleagues would tell me, they would always advise me that it is because of this it is because if they by the time they tell you the reasons why this is happening, you'll be able to see a bigger picture that, oh, you'll even be motivated that, okay, so it's not really about you lacking or people don't like your work. They don't just know you yet. And these things take time. So it helps you build capacity at that moment. You'll be able to, it builds resilience because then you have like a stone-hearted mind that, you know what, I'm going to put my head into this thing. I don't care. But eventually, the moment you get that first client, trust me, others will start coming. Others will start coming. So I just had to stay in it regardless. I just had to stay.
So I hope before the close of this call, you dash us some clients, maybe for our interns or beginners. All right. Okay. All right. So moving forward, you clearly established how discipline helped you scale. Guys, I hope you can still hear me. I will still together. You can use any of the emojis, thumbs up, whichever one. I will still together. All right, great. So you clearly established that discipline is one of the many things that sustained you through that phase. I mean, you had to practice, you were sure nobody was going to pay for what you were doing, but it was a defining moment in the trajectory. All right. Then I'll close this section by saying purposeful living is not based on feelings, and that's what you told us today. However you feel while you are building, it does not matter. You just must build. Take, for instance, there's an ocean, and you're in between the ocean. You really want to get out of the ocean, but then you are feeling cold. Are you going to stay there? Definitely not. So, whatever it is that is going to cost you, come what may, no matter what, whatever and whatever and whatever, you are going to gather yourself, put yourself together to get out of the ocean. And that is exactly what purposeful living, that is what it is.
Hmm.
Purposeful living does not give attention to how you feel. You know that it's just one thing. You just, is either you build or you don't build. Sorry, I mean, is either you build or you build. There's nothing like, I'm not doing. Purposeful living is not based on emotions. It does not even have anything to do with it. So because there's a downtime today, you may be tempted to say, okay, since there's a downtime, okay, I want to close this chapter. No, purposeful living does not respect how you feel. You just have to get going. You just have to get going. So you remember when we started, I said our guest speaker today is a friend of the family, and you could hear a couple of times she had to refer to us. All right. So you mentioned briefly how showing your work, even the work that nobody paid for, changed the trajectory of your design career. So after showing your work, you started getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clients, 100, 1,000 clients, and then we now come to managing them. So how have you been able to manage clients over time? I mean, well, there's a general saying, okay, customers are always right, and there are also different uh, customer experience. Some will come
Hmm.
very polite, some will come very rude, and some they would come with clear brief. They will tell you this is what I want, this is my color preference, this is how I want you to do it. See some inspiration. I like this, I like this. They will come very clear, and some they will just tell you do whatever it is that you know is good. How have you been able to manage such cases?
Okay. So over time, just like you mentioned, I've had different kinds of clients. Some that they'll just tell, please, I don't even know what I want to do, but this is like my idea. They'll just come with a rough idea, right? And this kind of clients, because they're coming with a rough idea, doesn't mean, Omo, if you don't give me something detailed, I cannot work for you. You have to let them on. You have to try to be on the same page with them. You have to ask them questions. Okay, what do you want? They can say, I'm not even sure. But I shall want something like yellow. You not combine it. Okay, what are you trying to communicate? You have to ask them questions because sometimes they don't even know. They know what they want, but they don't know how to communicate it. So you have to help them help you. so that you can give them what they want. So you just throw questions at them, questions that are necessary, where you feel like they've not answered this question. Okay, so what is the color of your brand? And maybe you combine colorful colors, and you can just suggest, okay, what about we do this? Okay, that's fine too. So it is more of you helping them to help you, or you're both helping each other so that clients can get what they want. That is for clients that come with not so straightforward brief. Yeah, and most of them are like that. They honestly don't know what they want. Sometimes you might be the one to tell them that, hey, let's go this way. And they're like, yeah, let's see what you can do. And when you're like, oh, I like this, I really love this, thank you very much. That is for some people. And there's some people that they know what they want. They'll just give you how they want it, and then you go with it, and then the work is smooth and everybody is paid and everyone is happy. But one thing I keep talking about is satisfaction. There's some clients that might not be satisfied, but they will not tell you. So it is important to always ask for feedback that, oh, so what do you think about the designer? Have you been able to use it? So what I do for some of my clients is I deliberately check up on them. I'll just bring up casual conversations. So how about that flyer now? How do you feel about it? Man, I like it too, but sometimes I think I want to change it. So you can do, we can work on that. Just follow up with them. Don't be too professional all the time as if they're talking to a robot. Talk to them like you are there for them. In fact, one other thing that I do is I deliberately send like maybe Happy New Week or Thank God it's Friday to these clients just to keep them alive, just to keep them, oh, this person is thinking about me. So there is a way it makes you feel as a client when whoever is rendering the service to you is checking up on you, not necessarily because you are looking for a job, because you just sort of care about them, and then they would always think about you. Oh, Peace is always bombarding me with flyers, so I know somebody. The first person that will come to their mind is someone that is always in their deep and not desperate, but you are just there as like a I don't know if it is appropriate to use the word brother, but somebody that is just there checking up on them once in a while, feedback, trying to get feedback, and yeah, that's how I've been able to maintain this clients. And there are some that are rude. They make it difficult for you to even do your best. This kind of people, you just have to work with wisdom. So they can come insult you. You just have to become sorry, pardon me. You just have to become try and get them to retrace what they want, and then hopefully. But there's some clients that you cannot do anything about it. Trust me, there are some extreme clients that they will tear you down, say a lot of things, and they'll say, I'll dishwash you and everything like that. You don't have a choice. You can't tell them that whatever they want to do, you're not scared or something like that. Or more, I beg, because it is your identity you're trying to protect. As much as you know your job, you're trying to protect your identity and what people know about you. So it's better to be at peace or work with wisdom with most clients. And just like one thing I always do is checking up on them, just subtle, thank God it's Friday. Do you have any job? All of those, how are you? How have you been? Just checking up. That is how I've been able to maintain them. And you do understand, I learned that from I think from an architect. I was working with somebody sometimes. We talked about how some clients see trust in that thing. When you're being casual with some of them, it builds some sort of trust. And I know Peace will not flop me. I know will not flop me. I know James will not flop. So it sort of builds the friendliness, and they'll be drawn to you. So yeah, that's how I work with them.
Wow. All right. So ask questions to help them help you. That's very thoughtful and really, really profound. Dear creatives, dear designer, ask questions, ask your client questions to help them help you. What that means is you have to ask tailored questions. So you don't ask vague questions. You don't say things, you don't ask general questions. You need to be specific. For some of us that know a bit about research, we call it structured questions or close-ended questions. You're not going to beat around the bush to give me an answer. So, because there's no time to be interpreting answers again, it just has to be direct. So, ask well-structured questions to help your client help you so that they can disintegrate a very complex brief even without them and knowing. And secondly, feedback. You see this feedback thing, the last session we had where we had Architect Ife, he said feedback could either be good or bad. And you must be bold enough to own your work. So if you've done something fantastic, your conscience justify what you've done, you should be able to ask for feedback. So that puts us at the end that we must take our clients' work seriously and do nothing short of excellence. Either you're an architect, either you're a graphic designer, either you're a fashion designer, whatever it is that you are doing, or probably you're even a teacher, excellence just must be part of your core value so that you won't be scared anytime you have to request for feedback. And the speaker once mentioned in between the conversation how even after doing everything that we call excellent, some clients will still respond with great dissatisfaction. It is part of the game, and you just have to manage it. So we'll be taking the next few minutes to ask a couple of questions. But before we get our questions in the chat, if you have any, please send them, use the chat section, or you just hold on for some more minutes, then you'll be able to ask using the call. So I want to ask one or two stories, success stories that you want to share with us that's made you feel fulfilled over the years. Can you share with us?
Thank you. Yeah, yes, thank you very much. In fact, I can tell Anu to just tell me to just even speak for me because, again, Anu was closely around me while for this particular one I'm about to say. So this one that I'm about to mention is not pertaining graphic design, but it's also in the design field. I'm an architectural designer, right? So one of the one of the success stories that I will always share is my journey in university and having to come out with good grades. I must mention so that you understand where it's coming from. In secondary school, I had a very average poor result. I came out as an average student, like C's and maybe F, no E, right? C's and E. So I wasn't performing very well at all, at all. Then while I wanted to get into school, one thing led to the other. I had a minor accident. And so around that time, I felt like a huge failure then because words were just flying near and there. So I got into school with so much anger. I didn't even know what I was coming to do. I just wanted to finish, yes. And so I started my journey. So while I was angry, yes, because I must mention that was part of an emotion that I felt when I first started. So when I started in 100 level, I was just doing my normal stuff, listening in class, doing my or performing my responsibility as a student, right? Then I saw that I had potential and maybe I had read myself wrongly, right? I saw that I was doing quite well and I had people to tell me that, oh, please, if you can do this, then do this and one thing, one thing, one thing. So I started trying my best, started putting effort. In 100 level, I did very well. In 200 level, I don't want to be too detailed, so I wouldn't start breaking down what I did in 100 level. But basically, what I was doing is I put in discipline, a lot of things. But maybe if there's a session for being detailed, then I'll talk about it. 200 level, I did the same thing. I was reading my books. I was performing my duties or my responsibilities as a student. I wasn't out there. I was always on my own, quite frankly. Right. So I knew what I wanted to do. I was already too sad before I came into school. So I didn't want to continue in that light again. So in 200 level, I must say that, okay, let me give, for context sake here, because very striking. I was in a first class in 100 level. 200 level, I was shooting a first class, but I saw that the first class was beginning to shake. Some things that happened, so I dropped. I dropped drastically. In 300 level, I dropped to 2-1. And if care wasn't taken, I would be failing, right? So it was very hard for me. I was going through all this emotional hula baloo, right? And I needed something to get back up. I'd put everything in place. I was reading, but it seemed like it wasn't connected. So I mentioned that in 300 level, I was already in two. I was already into one. The in 400 level, that was when I changed the story. I had just 2 semesters to change the story. So what I did is when I got back to school for my industrial training, I closed all distraction. One thing that I learned from Anu was, I think, resilience. Yeah, I think I mentioned that. I was always speaking to him. He knew what I was going through. So I told him this is what I wanted to. I wanted to come up with the first class. I just wanted the first class, something like that, right? So I knew that I had just 2 semesters to come back to first class, and I must get, like, according to my lecturer, then I must get like 4 points, a very high 5 point or something, like a very high first class. I must get something like that. So I continued to read. I would say I did the same thing. I had a goal, which was to come up with the first class. And that was when I discovered that it is hard for you to be disciplined without a goal. A goal is what would help you to be disciplined, right? I had a goal. I started putting things in place. I made sacrifices. It's not to brag or try, but that is a reality. There were times that it was time for me to have fun or to just chill, but I took it upon myself to do what was needed. There were some courses that I had not covered up, and I had to cover them up middle of the night, make sacrifices, turn down a lot of friendly events and a lot of things. And then when my first semester result came out, I was close to first class again. I was close to first class. So I saw the potential. I was like, okay, if I can do better in this final semester, it was one last semester that I had. Actually, it was one last semester that I had to get back to a first class. It's a success for me. Now, if people hear it, they might just think, oh, is you on top first class? But for me, it meant a lot because I knew what it was going to do for me. I knew why I wanted it, right? So it meant so much to me. So my final semester, that was where I drew the line. I was absent. I even felt ill because I was just maybe overworking and a lot of things. And when I got to first class at that final year, it was very commendable. I wish this is not about me so that it won't sound like she's trying to feel herself. It was very commendable because when I listened to people, it was a very narrow escape, but impressive because I had to put everything. That's why I said maybe I should have even said this thing so that it won't be like I'm trying to speak, I'm trying to sugar what is not. But that is something that I can mark as a success for me because I could have just left it. But yeah, I put everything that I had into that final semester, and then I swung back to first class. And yeah, I can say that was one success story that I have. Yeah. So yes,
Yeah,
thank
yeah.
you.
Thank you for sharing, and I want to say congratulations again on that feat. It's no small feat. I mean, anybody that you see that talk less on attaining first class, the person does not have one, so they don't know what it takes or what it feels like. All right. So that's not a shade. It's just me saying that first class is not a small feat. And if you see or know or have anybody around you that has that degree, please celebrate them. It is worthwhile. All right. So you made mention of something very phenomenal, that a goal is what will help you to be disciplined. So that's to say that being disciplined is actually the least or the least stressful thing. How to be disciplined is even the least thing. The where the task is setting the goal.
Hmm.
The real work is setting the goal, and that's the challenge I'm putting to everybody on this call today, and even the folks who will be listening later. Have a goal. Set a goal. In fact, make the goal look like you cannot achieve it, so that you will be able to put in the required effort very rigorously. And before you know, you will realize that you are disciplined. You are disciplined. Then, as a designer, you must learn to protect your identity. And talking about identity, it depends on you as a designer and how you position yourself. I will still give our guest speaker to make a general comment on this note. So, take for instance, if you go to a shopping mall to buy pepper, and then you got home and you realize that the pepper was bad, you would likely want to go back to the mall and say, "Oh, I bought this pepper, and I got home, realized the pepper was bad." And then, if they are trying to act abnormal, then let's say you're like, "I'll change it for everybody today." What do you think they will do? Before you start raising your voice, they will bring out another one for you because they have an identity to protect. And if you go on the street to buy pepper, same quantity, same amount, and then you got home, realize that the pepper is bad. Then you go back, you met with the woman or man, lady or guy. Oh, the pepper is bad. No matter how you try to raise your voice, trust me, if the guy does not want to change that pepper for you, will not change it because he has nothing to lose. So positioning also matters in this game. All right. Do we have any question before our guest speaker rounds up the entire conversation? Any questions? All right. Any Ola, please go ahead, please. Eniola Taiwo, please go ahead. You can unmute yourself and talk. You raised your
Okay,
hand.
can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, all right. So you talked about setting goals and being disciplined. So my question is, how do you maintain discipline over a long time? Because I'm noticing that I set goals and I do my best to start apply the efforts to achieve them. I'm noticing that there are days when I don't feel like moving towards that goal. I just the motivation drops and then the discipline drops for a while, and then it takes time for me to go back to being disciplined. So how do you maintain discipline for a long time, long enough for you to also put in the efforts to achieve those goals?
All right. So I'll leave that to our guest speaker to treat first, then I'll make a comment.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. So, how do we maintain discipline? First of all, as I must establish that discipline is quite hard. Apart from setting goal, it is hard to be disciplined. But it's just like I think most of us are Christians, but anyway, we all pray if we're Muslims. And at first, when you start trying to pray, it is hard for you to pray. Like let's say you give yourself time, it is hard for you to pray. But over time, you build capacity in staying longer in prayers. Sometimes it will just come naturally. That is the same. I think it applies to discipline. At first, it might be like, oh, well, I don't have to, I've not rested since. But the thing is, you don't have a choice. There is no other way to try and tweak discipline. I think that is where sacrifice comes in. When you think of what sacrifice is what you do even when it is not convenient, even when it is not supposed to be. So the moment you understand that, then you can put it in discipline. I must mention it's hard for people to be disciplined. It's very hard. You want to do something consistently. It's hard. But it is sacrifice that would make you keep on going. And just and if you have a goal already, it's even easier, right? But it still doesn't change the fact that discipline is hard. The goal will make you know what you're supposed to do. If you're supposed to read a course 3 times in a week so that you can pass the test that is coming on Monday, you have to force yourself to do it. But over time, one thing that I noticed, over time, it will become a part and parcel of you. You will become more comfortable with it. I'm going to give an illustration. At first, I don't think, while I was growing, I don't think I was a very disciplined person. I'm just trying to give an illustration as to how this thing works. I don't think I was a very, very disciplined person. But now, as I speak, if I don't do something productive in a day, I'll start getting worried. Now, I'm not saying that it's the best thing or it's the best character to work or something, or it's the best kind of impression, or what I call it is the best character to work with, anything that has to do with work. I'm not saying it's the best way to go about work, but that is what it does to you. Before you know it, a day or two, If you don't do something productive, you start feeling like, oh, no, I'm playing with my life. That is what it does to you. That's the same thing with prayer. If you don't pray after you've prayed fire for fire and you don't pray for a while, you start feeling like, oh, hey, God, I'm not praying. That's the same thing in discipline. It is at first hard, but over time, when it becomes, you force yourself out of that comfort zone. You have to force it. The moment you force it and you begin to find a pattern of being comfortable, being focused, it will be easier for you to be focused. And the days that you are not, that you are kind of tired, trust me, you might not even feel bad at the same time because you know how much work you put into your stuff. So the days where you have to take a rest, you won't feel bad really. But if it gets too much, it can get to a point where you start feeling bad for not working just for a day. That is what discipline does to you. So one has to force it out. I think I'm able to answer that question correctly. I'm just saying something that applies to me, really. So yeah.
Yes, you've honestly answered the question brilliantly well. So I'll just add these few thoughts. First, you see, we tend to get indisciplined sometimes after we've achieved the set goal. Right. Let's say no shades to guys are doing fit farm or I want to reduce. So take for instance, I want to reduce my weight and then I want to reduce it by 1 kg. Right. So immediately I get to that 1 kg, there's high tendency that I will not be as disciplined as I was before to drop the weight. But you know, the sad reality is if I don't stay disciplined, the weight I just lost will come back in multiple folds. So let me share this funny story. While I was in school, my BSc, myself and a very good friend of mine, we had this 1 week no sugar challenge. And that was when Coke decided to release this 1 liter Coke. For some of us, I still remember. Big, is it Coke Mama or Big Mama? I've forgotten the name, but I know it's 1 liter sized Coke. So we'll do no sugar challenge for 1 week, and then we'll come back with 1 liter Coke. So have we really achieved anything? Definitely no. All right. So once you realize that you are starting to drop or you are starting to be in discipline, then you need to raise the bar. And there's this funny um, term that came to my mind: raise them, raise them, raise them. Yeah. So once you realize that, oh man, I'm becoming indisciplined, raise the bar. And also, purposeful living is another thing that would help. Purposeful living. Remember what we said the other time that purposeful living is not based on feeling. It does not respect your feeling. You will know that you just have to get something done. And the last point is picture the worst if you don't stay disciplined to achieve your goal. So I will use another example. You want to buy a car, and then you know that if you don't keep up with your saving 1K per day, you are not going to buy the car. So picture the worst. So what's the worst that would happen? I'm going to go on this street with my heels and one keke guy is going to insult me. Just picture the worst. And then that will bring the reality of what's going to happen when you don't stay disciplined. And then you'll be able to keep up with the discipline. So our time is fast spent. We're supposed to close by 7. This is 7:02. However, I will still take the parting word from our guest speaker, and that will be all for today. If we have more questions, please share them on the group. We would reach out to our guest speaker and she'll provide response to everything. All right, our guest speaker.
All right. Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to be on this, to be with us all today. My final words, I think I must have said it even amongst what I was saying, is just be still. Now this is beginning to sound like a sermon. Just be still. Just remain. Whatever you want to do, just be consistent. Just continue to show up in whatever ways that you can. If it is posting on your WhatsApp, if it is your social media presence, which we didn't have opportunity to talk about that. The social media presence is very, very important. I wish I knew that earlier. It's very, very important. And one thing that I want to leave before one thing I want to say is there is no goal or there is nothing we dream about that we cannot achieve. That's one thing that I've discovered. And we need to work against small-mindedness. We need to work against small-mindedness. Whatever thing you have in your mind, trust me, it can be done. It might take time and it might look like, oh, it's not going to work, but it would. It definitely would. And that is going to be left to you to make it happen, because now you have to carry the cross of so many things. You know, if you're trying to be a renowned architect, say for it, if I want to be a renowned architect, I have to be showing up, I have to be up and doing. So in our fields, we have to do whatever it requires. For us in our field, we have to put our best foot. We have to show up, we have to socialize, we have to connect with people, we have to network with people. Social media presence is very important for anything that you're doing. And then prayer is very, very important, so that it doesn't seem like everything is just from magically from our head. Prayer is very important. Yeah. And then learning never stops. That's one thing I've discovered. Learning never stops. Even those that came after you, you could learn from them. So I think those are my few words. And I believe that all of us would succeed in whatever we put ourselves or whatever we have our hands doing. Yeah, so that is all I can say.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Thank you for joining us today. We are so glad you could make it. Thank you so much. We appreciate. Thank you to everyone on the call. So I will hand over to the program manager now. Please, over to you.
All right. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for staying through to this moment. And I want to say a very big thank you to our guest speaker. I personally have learned quite a lot of things, and I think one of the is it the thing that I held on to was the part of the academics of how that you're able to, make your way back even to first class with all those things and every other thing. So, and I believe that every other person too, in one way or the other, has been able to learn and hold on to something. So, thank you once again. I also want to say a very big thank you for to our host, and a very big thank you to Bezalel Design Academy for this great opportunity to learn. And for those that maybe are on this call or that will be watching this video, this recording later on, and you want to join our academy, the link to the community would be attached to the message and to the video. So you can just do well to click on it, and then you'll be able to join our WhatsApp community. And also, as we can see on the screen, we have the graphics design mastery course going on. So we have the mastery design mastery course which is for a duration of 6 months, and believe me, this is one of the best design classes that you would be glad that you pay for it, because the money, or let me say the fee attached, is in no way compared to the knowledge and the experience that you are going to gain. So if you are someone that is interested in going into design and you don't know how to go about it, or if you have a friend that you know that would be interested in learning graphics design, please do well to send this flyer to them and reach out to them to enroll. We have tutors and creatives who can put you through everything you need to know about graphics design. So don't miss this opportunity. We also have several other things that go on in the community. So as not to miss out on these things, I would employ that you join our community. So thank you once again, everyone, for joining. Okay. All right. So we started with something, and I would like us to end with that, because this is okay. So, and that was prayers, and I would just like us to just have a few words of prayer together too before we close. But before that, I don't know if there's any other comments from our director before we close.
None at all.
All right, all right. Thank you very much. And for those that joined, maybe you were unable to join at the beginning. Maybe you joined while the meeting has already started. The recording will be available on the Bezalel YouTube channel. So the link will be sent to the group after the meeting. So you can just do well to catch up and just check through everything so that you don't miss out on any. And you can also share to your friends so that they can also learn from this. And don't forget to subscribe and turn up turn on your notification just so that you can get the notification when other educational materials and resourceful things are added to the channel. So thank you very much, everyone. Can we just pray? Lord, we thank you for how far you've helped us to be exalted in the name of Jesus. Thank you for yet another time to learn this time. And Lord, we ask that even much more than we've learned, we ask that you help us to give ourselves to what is needed, even to excel in this field, that you help us to be diligent in whatsoever aspect we find ourselves, that the spirit of excellence, just like that of Daniel, that it will rest on us, the spirit of excellent, the spirit of craftsmanship, just like that of Bezalel, that it will rest on every man. And we ask that you help us even to show forth you in everything that we do. Thank you because you've answered our prayer. For in Jesus' mighty name, have we prayed. Amen. So thank you very much, everyone. Do have a great evening.